So do you have any optimism that it's going to turn out well in the long term? Because it seems we can go a lot of different directions, because people will certainly use the technology to benefit themselves against other people. It can certainly be used as a weapon. It can have inadvertent harmful effects. We have to deal with a lot of questions, and maybe the technology is advancing a little faster than we're dealing with the questions.
Yeah, I think that's a serious issue. I'm actually very optimistic, and in fact, most of my work is about how do you encode what our values are? How do you encode, once you've envisioned, yes, this is the kind of society we want, how do you build that into an intelligent system so that it actually comes about? And I think we're making great progress in that area. You're absolutely right that there will be people. One of the big areas is financial trading. Right now, 70% of all the trades on the stock exchange are actually automated systems, and they're happening too fast for any human to make any decision in there. And so I think we can expect to see that kind of arms race, really going more and more. We can expect to see the military arms races going more and more. At the same time, I think there'll be a broader awareness and interest in this whole area. There are two recent movies. There's the movie Her, we started talking about a man who falls in love with his AI system that really, explores some of the emotional aspects. And then there's a new movie, a new Johnny Depp movie called Transcendence is coming out in a couple of months that I think takes a more societal view of, what is the effect of these smart systems sort of running everything. And so I think the world at large is going to begin thinking about these questions, and I think we're going to get a lot of input from not just scientists, but from philosophers, from theologians, from artists, and that collection of different insights and visions for where we want to go is, I think, exactly what we need to create a wonderful future society.
Do you think there's a risk that human life might become devalued because of the success of computers? People might feel that a computer is more valuable than a human being. We'd rather sacrifice a human than to lose this machine.
Yeah.
Because the machine is more capable.
Well, it's funny. I was just on NPR on a radio show talking about this movie, Her, and some of the callers calling in said, well, what are you saying about, humans are better than these machines? I want a machine girlfriend. And so already, I think, and in Japan, there's a whole subculture of people that have sort of virtual girlfriends. And so we're beginning to touch that area. It's a very strange and odd sort of zone. People had the tagamuchis where you had to feed your little pet to keep it from dying, and people got very attached to that. The Roomba vacuum cleaner. Some people love their Roomba so much they take it on trips with them, and so I think it's very easy for people to envision and project onto an object a sense of attachment and connection, and for good or for bad.
Now, the human race obviously has a lot of problems. Do you think technology can solve all these problems? Do you think that the answers to human problems ultimately lie in technology, or some things such that humans have to figure them out themselves, like what drives human life, what drives human aggression, why do people do what they do?
Yeah, I think technology is a very powerful tool, and it's primarily a mirror for us. And so it's really going to be our choices that guide where these things go. If we don't control it, you can sort of see what happens in the economic sphere today. Systems running on pure, profit maximization sometimes end up behaving in ways that don't support humanity in the best way. And so I think if we just let these systems sort of run in a pure, economic sense, we won't necessarily like where it ends up. If we put a lot of thought into where do we want this to go and very carefully design them to support the values that we care most about, I think we can create a beautiful, incredible future.
And typically these machines are not built primarily to benefit humanity. It's really the profit motive that is the most important driver. Everyone's in a rush to get their product to market first, even if it has a few little bugs in it. Is it possible to modify the culture that people say, well, the effect we have on the world might even be more important than how much money we make this year?
Well, it's interesting to take, for example, Facebook. When Facebook first started out, it was primarily, a channel to communicate, and people were sharing little things with friends and adding up many Facebook friends. And Facebook, the company, was primarily, trying to figure out how to get ads in there and how to get people hooked up. Well, some social problems arose. There was bullying on Facebook. There were, people who were, getting messages they didn't want to see and so on. And so they've hooked up with the Center for the Greater Good, and I just was at, they had a day of compassion at the Facebook headquarters where they brought in psychologists talking about the psychology of happiness, the psychology of good, positive emotional communication, and they're building that into their systems. And so I see that as a sort of a positive, simple example of the kind of progression we can expect. It's sort of like the layers of the Maslow hierarchy. When a technology first shows up, it's like getting it to work at all is the important thing. But as it becomes more refined, like if you look at cell phones today, they begin to get more nuance and more subtlety and to connect at the deeper emotional levels with the people that use them. And so I'm very hopeful that that's going to happen. We see.
Getting back to the idea of human thought, because we were touching on this a little earlier, do we have any idea of what thought really is? No one's ever seen a thought, weighed it, measured it in the laboratory, but they seem to exist. Is that related to artificial intelligence? Can a machine really have the property of thought, or is it just a simulation, kind of a mock-up?
Yeah, that I think is one of the core questions quite related to the sort of consciousness question. We can say what we mean by intelligence. What I mean by intelligence is the ability to solve problems to better meet some goal. And by that definition, a lot of animals are intelligent. A dog can figure out, there's lots of great little videos where dogs solving problems to get some food that they want. Or birds. Birds are incredibly intelligent in that regard. Whether our human experience of thought is the same as that is not so clear. You have to sort of identify, well, what is going on? Neuroscientists are beginning to tease apart what biochemically is happening in a brain when an animal or a person makes a choice and does something in the world that solves a problem. We're beginning to understand that at the biochemical level. When you have a computer doing it, of course, it's a very different substrate. It's a program running on silicon hardware, and yet the processes, the mathematical process to solving a problem is very analogous.
And a computer can figure out how to achieve a goal, but can it set the goal? Can it decide what kind of goal would be desirable?
Well, you need to have some meta goal. And one of the things that systems which are goal-seeking, trying to meet goals, do is they try and create sub-goals which will help in the satisfaction of their main goal. And so one of the challenges, I think, as we create these systems is to choose sufficiently broad main goals so that the sub-goals that these systems create themselves actually lead to outcomes that we want.
We're almost out of time. Let me just ask a quick question. You think human beings might become redundant?
Well, I certainly hope not. I think we should be channeling this technology to support our humanity. And one view that sort of a number of people have is to not think of this as an us and a them, that, oh, these new creatures are coming and they're going to be more powerful than us, but rather to think of them as an extension of ourselves. And that as these systems become more powerful, it's really us that's becoming more powerful. And that this is sort of a new age for humanity rather than sort of so
they should be the servants rather than the masters.
Exactly.
Okay. We're going to have to wrap on that note because we are out of time. I'd like to thank my guest, Steve Omohundro. We've been talking about artificial intelligence and where it's leading us. Visit our website, www.futuretalk.net. This is Marty Wasserman for Future Talk. We'll see you next time.
Right.
I believe the microphone should be off.